Well, it would be a waste of time to just sit around, wouldn't it? Let me explain.
Oh, I get it. We're gonna see if we can get anywhere interesting with the Jupiter key.
That's right. Hello, one and all. This is Luckless Lovelocks. Welcome back to 999.
Yes. If we're lucky, we might find Snake.
They were at the end of the hallway, lined by individual hospital rooms.
And here's the Jupiter symbol on the keyhole.
All right, Junpei. Open it if you please.
Yeah, on it.
Junpei pulled the Jupiter key out of his pocket and slid it into the keyhole. He twisted. With a nice, sharp click, he felt the door unlock. Certainly hope so. Junpei sucked in a breath, held it, and opened the door as quietly as he could. Inside was exactly what he expected to see from the map of the ship's interior. They were in a tremendous hall, almost like a ballroom, with a massive central staircase.
Great, back to the beginning. You sure this is a good idea?
What do you mean?
Well, we already searched every inch of this room, didn't we?
Weren't there some doors that had locked... Weren't there some locked doors that had insignias for keys that we have now?
I'm asking you if there's any reason we came back here.
Of course!
Of course there's a reason. Man, sometimes I can't tell if you're smart or just lucky.
Huh?
Whoa, burn.
This.
Junpei pulled two things out of his pocket.
The Saturn key card. And the Earth key? I'm lost.
Santa cocked his head to one side, like an inquisitive bird, and looked at them. After several long moments, during which it became apparent that Santa had no idea what the cards meant, June took pity on him.
Don't you remember, Santa? On C deck, where we are now, there was a big elevator behind the stairs, remember? And next to the elevator, there was a card reader with the Saturn symbol on it. And on A deck, on the door to the left, there was a keyhole with the Earth symbol on it, I think. So the two keys that Junpei has?
Should let us use the elevator and the door on A deck. Huh.
Yes, that's right.
June smiled, pleased with herself. So did Santa.
All right, I got it. Let's get started then.
See, June's good at explaining things without seeming condescending, unlike Lotus.
What do you say we split into two teams? Lotus and I will search the Earth one, so you two can search Saturn, all right?
Sounds good. Then you guys should take this key.
That's good, because I'm kind of getting tired of Lotus. Santa's cool. Lotus is a bit of a jerk. Junpei handed the Earth key to Santa. They decided that their initial search should be brief.
We have no idea what's on the other side of these. So don't go too far. Just search for 10 minutes and come back.
Plan decided, the two teams split up. Junpei and June headed for the elevators.
There's a card reader next to the left elevator.
Then let's try out the Saturn key card.
Nice. A light on the upper left corner blinked to life.
Great! It looks like it's working now.
All right, now how do I call the elevator?
There was a single button to the right of the elevator door.
Oh, it only has the upside down triangle on it.
I guess there's no up button. Well, we may as well try pushing this one.
The door slid shut, and they heard the grinding of the motor as the elevator car moved down.
opened! Look, Junpei!
June's voice was excited, but Junpei could hear a tinge of anxiety.
Sweet, it opened. Let's get going.
He grinned at June and stepped toward the open door. As he was about to set foot in it, he felt a hand on his arm.
Wait!
What?
I'm not really, I just, oh gosh.
Junpei was at something of a loss. What could she possibly be so frightened of? June was probably afraid of... Probably they could only go down. She was afraid because the only elevator button pointed down. And that's where the flooding's happening, right? That meant, of course, that the elevator couldn't go any higher than the floor they were on. As he thought about it, Junpei realized he hadn't seen elevators on the A or B decks near the central staircase. All of which meant that the elevator could only convey them to the lower decks.
Come to think of it, the lower floor, D deck, is completely underwater. An elevator heading to a submerged floor. That is pretty scary. Hey, wait a minute. This elevator came up from somewhere under us, right?
Well, yes, I guess it did. It didn't open right away after you pressed the button. There was a motor noise like it was moving, and then it opened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So, take a look inside.
Junpei jerked his head toward the interior of the elevator.
It's not wet at all, is it? The walls and even the floor are totally dry.
So that means at least the elevator is watertight,
Oh, you're right.
I guess.
They are.
She looked around the elevator, slightly embarrassed.
Well, let's test it.
Tested.
Yeah, watch this. Now, I'll just put one foot inside the elevator and look over at the buttons. Oh, there's only two. E and C. All right, I'll push E.
He pushed the E button and jumped out of the elevator. The door slid shut, and they heard the grinding of the motor as the elevator car moved down. This might take a while.
I think I can hear it opening on E deck.
Okay, that's done. Now I'll just press the button again.
A few moments later, the elevator returned. No water.
Yep, not a single drop of water to be seen. See?
There's something about where it's going. It's not waterlogged. Junpei couldn't resist puffing out his chest, just a little bit. June, however, still looked confused.
What does that mean? How can E deck be safe if the D deck is full of water?
Well, here's what I think. The elevator shaft and E deck must be watertight and separated from wherever the ship's been punctured. Here, let me show you.
He pulled out his notebook and pen and sketched out a rough illustration.
I see. So is that why the ship hasn't sunk? The shape of the inside keeps it all from filling with water?
Yeah, I think that's what's going on.
Junpei continued talking as he closed the notebook and slipped it back into his pocket.
So I'm gonna go down and check it out. You stay here, all right?
But...
Come on, just do it, all right?
He gave June's shoulder a reassuring squeeze, then hopped onto the elevator. I don't like this one bit. He pushed the E button and the door began to close. June looked worried, her eyes darting back and forth as if she was trying to make a decision, then suddenly...
I'm coming with you!
Huh?
At the last possible moment, June dashed forward, turning sideways just in time to slip through the gap between the closing doors.
Hey, wait!
Junpei jammed his finger against the open button, but it was too late. Oh, she didn't make it?
Ah, crap. It closed.
The door had shut. He and June... Oh, June did make it. We're in the elevator, and it was headed down to E deck. He was so surprised by June that he didn't even have time to think about what awaited him on the E deck.
I can't just let you go alone, you know.
Ah, jeez.
The elevator stopped, and the door slid open. They tentatively stepped out and looked around.
It looks normal.
No fish going about their fishy business, or jellyfish floating lazily through the water. There was, however, a blowfish. Or at least something that looked very much like one. What? Oh, June's cheeks were puffed out, and her mouth a tiny, intense frown.
Oh, knock it off. It's just like I thought. This part hasn't flooded. Come on, just look around. There's no water here.
June looked around nervously, then... She was holding her breath. That's great. Exhaled.
You're right. It's not flooded at all.
See?
But there's a whole lot of water.
Yeah, right on top of us.
What's gonna happen if the ceiling breaks?
Junpei thought about that for a moment.
We'd probably die.
Oh no. Don't be so casual about something like that.
At any rate, we should probably go back as soon as we can, once we're done looking around down here. Lotus and Santa might already be back.
Okay, good idea.
Now then.
Junpei glanced around the room they'd found themselves in. First thing he noticed was a set of thick iron bars. They ran the length of the room, separating the left elevator from the right one.
Iron bars. Well, we can't go over there.
Right.
Then maybe...
In the corner of the room that housed the elevators, Junpei found an opening.
Well...
He walked up to it and stuck his head around the corner.
It looks like there's a long straight hallway down this way.
Door 6 is there. Okay. So now we know where 6 is. There's still 1 and 2, and of course 9.
Something's written on the door at the end. Wait, is that...
Let's check.
Junpei and June set off down the hallway at a brisk clip, somewhere between a run and a jog. Before long, they found themselves in front of the door. On it was a number written in bright red paint. 6.
I knew it!
This is a numbered door.
And indeed, there was a red bolted to the wall right next to the door.
But we can't do anything with only the two of us.
We better head back and let everyone know.
Yes.
Junpei and June turned and headed back to C deck.
Wait, what's this?
On their way back, Junpei noticed a map on the wall. Nice.
Is this the map for E deck? I should take it with me.
That's huge.
Huh, so you guys found door 1.
Okay. So there's just door 2 remaining. They'd met back up with Santa and Lotus, who had explained what they'd found. I wonder if they're gonna find door 2, the other group. Apparently there was another numbered door on A deck, just like the one on E deck, beyond the door that the Earth key opened. According to Santa and Lotus, there was a 1 on the door.
So now we've located 2 new doors, the 6 door and the 1 door.
You know, it is interesting that E deck wasn't flooded.
Clearly for a reason. Lotus was quiet for a moment, lost in thought.
Well, we don't really know if all of E deck is safe. We only checked the area around the elevator.
Even so, it's still very interesting.
You said the 6th door was there, right?
Yes.
Then that means Zero planned all this out. even the sinking. That would have meant some pretty serious remodeling of the ship's interior.
That's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
Yeah, I wonder how long it took. I can't even imagine how much it must have cost.
It would have been a ton, that's for sure.
A ton of cost.
Well, that does go along with what Ace was saying. The most reasonable explanation would be that this was done by some organization with access to a whole lot of cash.
Yes, it does make sense.
That thought made them all go quiet for a moment.
Hmm.
Oh. Huh? Oh. Huh. June bit her lip while Lotus sighed softly to herself, and Santa cracked a stiff neck and stared off into the distance at nothing.
Yeah?
I don't think it's a very good idea to stay here.
June looked up at Junpei with large, pleading eyes.
Yeah, you're right. Ace and his team might be back already.
Well, Junpei and I should be able to open door 1.
Oh, true.
Huh? You guys leaving me behind?
8 plus 6 plus 5 equals 19. 1 plus 9 equals 10. 1 plus 0 equals 1.
Just kidding. All right, let's go.
Lotus's words were all the impetus they needed. The large hospital room, they went. See if they're back. The moment they stepped inside, a tremendous voice echoed across the room.
Hey! Where the hell did you guys go?
It was 7.
7?
Ace was right behind him, and Clover was behind Ace, although she seemed to be hanging back.
What's wrong?
Something bad happened. Looked as though there was something strange about them. 7 had the look of a man who'd seen a ghost. Ace was just as pale, and Clover looked as though she was only moments from passing out entirely. For a long moment, they simply stood there, looking at one another. Junpei looked around nervously, waiting for someone else to speak. No one did. He looked at 7.
What happened?
What the hell kind of question is that?
7 was trying very hard to be angry, but something had shaken him hard. His shoulders were trembling and his voice was strained.
Snake is...
7 couldn't finish. He just looked away, his face twisted by... Junpei wasn't sure what. Instead, Ace spoke. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and spoke.
Snake is... dead.
They found Snake. Shit.
He died, just as the 9th man did.
Why would he go in there alone, though? Oh, maybe a setup? It was as if all the air had suddenly been sucked out of the room. Junpei felt his heartbeat quicken, and he realized he was having trouble breathing. He could feel cold sweat beating on his forehead and neck. June, Santa, and Lotus looked the way he felt. All 3 were frozen in place, their faces white.
Oh my god, that's not true, is it?
We should make sure.
Yeah, right. We should.
They nodded to one another and headed for the number 3 door.
Wait, not that way.
What? Why not?
They stopped short and turned to look at 7. He was pointing at the door with no number.
I stuck a screwdriver in there to keep the door from closing all the way. It's not locked, so you can go in that way.
Where is he?
We're gonna go check it out?
The shower room. The left side of the hallway.
Oh my god.
I put a broom in there too to keep the door open.
That means we can get in without going through the numbered door, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Then let's go.
Their new destination clear, Junpei and his companions headed for the door with no number. Once in the hallway, it was easy to spot the metal door on the left wall.
This wasn't open when we passed here before.
But now, just as Seven had said, there was a broom stuck between the door and the frame, keeping it open.
Well, let's keep going.
They looked at it for a moment, then stepped inside.
Oh, it smells horrible.
Lotus wrinkled her nose and covered her mouth in disgust. Even Santa pinched his nose shut.
Ugh, yeah, this is pretty awful. I feel like I'm gonna puke.
It was just as bad as they said, perhaps worse. A hideous smell filled the air, so thick they could almost taste it. It was sour and smelled of fish, feces, and burnt meat. Ugh, God. It worked its way through Junpei's nose and down his throat to pound against the entrance to his stomach. He put his hands over his mouth and struggled to keep what little was in his stomach, where it belonged.
Where is he? Where's Snake?
They didn't have to wonder where the body was. There's writing on the wall.
There.
There was blood everywhere, a few arms and splatter reaching toward them as they walked in through the door. All one had to do was follow the many radial arms to their source. The body itself was hidden behind a divider.
June, you should stay here.
But
Please, just do me a favor, okay? All right?
He didn't give her a chance to say no. He put his hand on her shoulder as if to shove her into the ground like a tent pole, turned and walked toward the end of the divider.
I'm going in.
Felt like it took an eternity for him to get there. Santa and Lotus followed, timid and nervous as a pair of children. Eventually they reached the divider. They looked at one another and nodded slowly. Junpei put his hands on the divider and peered around the corner. For a moment, he forgot to breathe. He felt his heart collapse in his chest like an empty cigarette carton, and time froze. He knew in that instant that he would take the image before him to the grave. What was left of the body sat in a sea of blood. Chunks of flesh torn from the body sat in the blood like tiny islands in a great red sea. A vast, ragged hole had been torn in the torso. What remained of his intestines spilled out of it like fresh spaghetti. Oh, God. Smaller chunks of meat had splattered against the wall and had become stuck there as they dried. Globules of yellowish fat had left trails like tiny slugs as gravity pulled them down the wall, even as they dried to it.
Just like he said.
Santa's voice was strained. Junpei suspected he was holding down some vomit of his own.
Just like the ninth man. The detonator in his bracelet set off the bomb in his gut.
It looked as though the explosion had been quite powerful.
Oh God. The bone is coming out of his left arm.
It's definitely an open fracture.
His legs were both bent in an odd, unnatural way, and his left arm had split open, exposing the painfully white bone of his ulna. His bracelet lay next to him. It seemed to have hit the wall hard enough to have shattered the display, which lay on the ground in pieces.
Oh, the face. It's horrible.
Yeah, you can't even tell who it is.
Half of his head had simply collapsed. The blood coating almost made it look like raw pizza dough covered in tomato sauce. Ugh. His clothes, too, were covered in blood. The burgundy tie, the white shirt, the jacket with the yellow piping, and gray slacks.
But the clothes are...
They were all familiar to Junpei.
No mistake about it. It's Snake.
Lotus's voice was unnaturally deep and strained, and Junpei heard it catch in her throat. The squeal of tortured metal made Junpei's teeth curl. It sounded like the noise a ghost would make. No matter how many times he heard it, he never got used to it. Every time it put him on edge. It didn't help that there was a girl nearby who looked far more like a ghost than a living human should. It was Clover. She sat on the edge of the bed, her head drooping listlessly onto her chest. Her eyes were blank and stared across the room at nothing. Her breathing was slow and mechanical. Aside from the rise and fall of her chest, she didn't move. Junpei felt as if even a nudge might cause her to shatter into 1,000 pieces.
Snake was probably murdered. Chances are he was killed the same way the ninth man was.
Seven lowered his voice, likely in an effort to keep Clover from hearing what he had to say. There were 4 other people in the room with Junpei and Seven. Ace, Santa, June, and Lotus. Seven looked at each one of them in turn and continued.
It's pretty straightforward. Not that hard to figure out how they did it. First, the killers got Snake to authenticate on the red to open door 3. Then they shoved him into it, alone, and waited 9 seconds for the door to shut. Once that door shut, it was all over for Snake, but he didn't give up. He probably knew it wouldn't do him any good, but he probably ran into the shower room looking for the dead. It was a small chance, but it wasn't like he had anything to lose. Unfortunately, it didn't work. The detonator is only deactivated if everybody who authenticated when they went in uses the dead. Snake was the only one who went through the door. And then, 81 seconds after he was shoved in, that happened.
I see. So that's what you meant by killers, huh? You need at least 3 people to open one of the numbered doors, including Snake.
Oh my god, that's true.
It wouldn't open for Snake and a single killer.
Yeah.
I mean, immediately, Lotus is my top suspect.
That means we're looking at multiple perps here.
But that's maybe too obvious. I did see 2 letters on the wall. One was an L, I think the other one was an R. Not sure what the R would be, but L could be for Lotus.
Well, just in case, I want to make sure. Let's say you're right. When do you think Snake was killed?
When we all split up to look for the parts for the Reds, I think. Right after that was when we noticed he was gone.
Then that means none of us have alibis. We were all off searching the rooms we'd been assigned, looking for those parts.
Yeah. That means anybody could be a killer.
Wait a minute. What are you talking about?
June seemed shocked.
How can you say that so casually? You're implying that one of us is a killer.
Well, not just one of us. If I'm right, then at least 2 of us are murderers.
Why don't you calm down a bit, Seven? What are you going to gain by being so suspicious? That's what Zero wants, you know?
What Zero wants?
Exactly. This game was set up by Zero, wasn't it? Any game has a winner and loser. Whoever makes it through door 9 is a winner, and those who don't are the losers. Zero is trying to make us fight against one another for that victory.
Then you're saying that Zero is trying to split us up by making us fight each other?
Yes. That is why we can't let ourselves fall prey to suspicion. We have to trust one another and form a strong bond of friendship. Otherwise, we'll end up ensnared by Zero's manipulations.
Then does that mean that the person who killed Snake...
Yes, almost certainly Zero himself. If there's anyone we should doubt, it should be Zero.
Good point, good point.
He masterminded this game and kidnapped all of us. Doesn't it seem reasonable that he would have killed Snake as well?
Good question.
Junpei hadn't really considered that.
If Zero killed Snake, then Zero is on the ship with us.
Junpei? Was Zero still on the ship with them? I'm not sure. Have we seen any other... I would say... There's also... There's also the fact that the Reds had their components replaced. Someone had to do that, and we did figure it was Zero before, so I'm gonna go of course. Of course he was. That was obvious.
But I don't...
Zero was somewhere on the ship, but Junpei had no idea where. And we're gonna continue on the next episode. Thank you so much for watching. This is Luckless Lovelocks signing off for now. And I love you all.